Okay, before I show this video, this is Rob Matthew, and this is part of a larger discussion on moral instruction and the law for moral instruction in Kentucky. But this is part of a lengthy diatribe by a pastor in Oldham County where Lifewise Academy was trying to get a application for moral instruction approved by the Oldham County School Board. They rejected it for a lot of reasons, primarily logistical ones, which I think were valid concerns. And that led to probably about a half hour, a little more rant by this pastor about public schools and how they're immoral and they teach kids to hate God, that God doesn't exist. They're not godly. The people who support public schools are a cult. The ministers who say that this moral instruction should not be taking place in the school are just, I guess, bad Christians are not real Christians. He even puts an attack in at the church I was raised in, the Catholic Church. So it was just an interesting sermon, but he's making a larger point, I think, and I'm, again, Catholic, so maybe I don't understand it, but he's talking about how sin travels over time and that the public schools are sinning today and that's going to come back to bite them. And what he uses to illustrate this is the case of Robert Morris. And for those who don't know, Robert Morris is a mega pastor, church of over 100,000 people, Gateway Church in Texas. There are, let's see, sorry, I got to find my notes here. About 100,000 active attendees, according to NPR article from last year. 9 campuses in Texas, locations in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and St. Louis. So he's got some successful franchising going. He was accused of sexual abuse, pled guilty this month to sexually abusing a young girl. So keep that in mind as you watch these comments.
Sin brings disgrace. Right now, there's a guy, we would have said 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we would have said he's a great theologian. He's a great mind for the Lord. His name's Robert Morrison. Just this past week, he'd been arrested a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, whatever it was. He got arrested because he had some sort of misconduct with a minor, some sort of sexual misconduct with a minor, like 20 years ago or 25 years ago. He gets found out just last year. They arrested him last year. He stood in a courtroom this past week and he pled guilty and said, I plead guilty to all of it. I hope that I've made peace with God, but I hope that this will help me make peace with men and with the family that I've affected, and hopefully this will help them to bring some closure. And they have video of him walking out of the courtroom. Here was a great theologian for the Lord, a great mind for the Lord, and he's walking out of court with handcuffs on as he's being led to prison for whatever to fill out a sentence because of what he did 25 years ago. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? Sin brings shame.
Okay, what bothers me here is that it seems like there's a trivialization of what Robert Morris has done. His goal is to make a point that something you did many years ago, 20 to 25 years ago, by Mr. Walker's statement, reality 43 years ago, eventually will catch up with you. Okay? And to me, that trivializes what actually happened here. So I wanted to elaborate on what happened, especially in the context of moral instruction. Again, it's Robert Morris, pastor of Gateway Church. Some additional details about him, again, in context of moral instruction. He grew to prominence after then-candidate Donald Trump named him his spiritual advisor and a member of his Evangelical Advisory Committee in 2016. So here's a spiritual advisor to Donald Trump, a man who never met a commandment he couldn't break, a man who's committed adultery on 3 different wives, including with a porn star on his pregnant wife. Definitely has taken the Lord's name in vain, seems to have justified killing people on boats in Venezuela without any due process. So, thou shalt kill, I guess. Bearing false witness, the man lies like crazy. He's been found liable for sexual assault. He sexualized his own daughter. He is really, really, really concerned about the Epstein files. He was a close personal friend of Jeffrey Epstein. And yes, I realize there are a lot of close personal friends of Epstein. And I hope that eventually sees the light of day and anybody involved with what Epstein did finds themselves on the wrong end of a jail cell, at least, for the heinous crimes that he committed. Those who helped and those who participated with him should be in jail, no doubt. Didn't say Trump was, don't know, but It's odd how much he's fighting it. Trump referred to Morris and Steve Doolin, another Gateway elder, as great people with a great reputation. Okay, again, this is a guy we'd soon find out was convicted or was accused of molesting a girl and has now pled guilty to molesting a 12-year-old girl. Here's the details of the allegation, and this again puts these remarks, this some sort of misconduct, as Mr. Walker has put it. Let's put that in some context, what that some sort of misconduct was. In her account is told to the Wartburg Watch, Clement Scherer, that's the woman who was abused by Morris, says her abuse by Morris began in 1982, when she was 12 years old and Morris was 21. So 9 years older, a legal adult, he's abusing a child, a 12-year-old. At the time, he was a traveling evangelist. Again, a moral arbiter of morals and a person who did moral instruction, presumably as a pastor. Their families were friends, and Morris, along with his wife Debbie and their young son, so he was married while he was doing this, had kids while he was doing this, would stay with Clement Scherer's family and join them on trips. So no doubt gaining her trust. Clement Scherer said the abuse began on Christmas night of 1982. Christmas night, one of the most holy nights in Christian religion. Christmas night, this 21-year-old adult began to abuse a 12-year-old child. Continued for more than 4 years. 4 years. Taking place in Texas and Oklahoma. So 4 years over 2 states, beginning on Christmas, from this traveling evangelist pastor who no doubt is a moral instructor. First night, Clement Scherer alleged that Morris touched her breasts and under her underwear. As she grew older, he attempted to have sexual intercourse with her. The abuse ended when she was 16, Clement Scherer said, when she told her parents. Her father demanded that Morris get out of the ministry or he would report the abuse to law enforcement. So that's troubling there. And I don't want to pass judgment on this father, but it's a common refrain in abuse in churches that parents don't want shame cast upon their daughter, their son, for things they didn't do, or on their church, as though somehow it's not all right to accuse somebody of abuse. You must find a different way to do it. And there are plenty of churches who want to seek a biblical resolution as opposed to a legal resolution. It's actually something quite common in some Christian schools that you agree not to pursue legal action against the school. So it's frightening to read that. I don't know why the father didn't choose to pursue this with law enforcement, but it seems very possible that it's because maybe the church dissuaded him, or he was worried about how his own daughter would be treated, because that's common too. It can't be the man who did the abuse. It's got to be the woman, or in this case, a child. So he tells him to get out of the ministry, and Morris does. It says here he stepped away from the ministry in 1987, but returned 2 years later. I guess he thought he was forgiven. Well, wait, there's more. I think he did think he was forgiven because here's how the story continues. Shortly after the story of the abuse was published, Morris acknowledged the allegations of, and this is how he says it, inappropriate sexual behavior in a statement shared on social media. The elders of Gateway Church, again, some fine, upstanding moral leaders, said in this statement that Morris, quote, has been open and forthright about a moral failure he had over 35 years ago. Think about that. Open and forthright about a moral failure from 35 years ago. Never thought to share that from 1982 on with anyone. He just continued being a minister. He acknowledged, this again according to the story, they acknowledged that Morris said he had several sexual encounters with a, quote, young lady. She was a child, not a young lady. She was a child. She was 12 to 16. She was being abused by this guy. He acknowledged that he did this when he was in his 20s. Again, an adult. and he had repented. Okay, well, let's consider this for a second. I'm a Catholic. I know about sins and guilt and all that. But when I look at sins, I think of sins as being, there are some sins that are big and some that are small. I don't consider, taking the Lord's name in vain is probably down here. And here it's below the screen. And rape, sexual assault, abuse, violence against someone up here. Okay, so he repented. He didn't serve any time, which he should have. I don't know that he made amends to this girl. It doesn't sound like he did. He should have been in jail. But he was okay with it. He repented. In his mind, he was fine. This moral leader who sexually abused a girl starting on Christmas Day, a Christian pastor on Christmas Day starts sexually abusing a 12-year-old. He repented, so it's okay. It was a long time ago. So it's in hearing this and in hearing Mr. Walker referring to him as a great theologian for the Lord, a great mind for the Lord, and acting like Sia caught up with him, while dismissing, not even really saying what this man did for 4 years, starting at Christmas, rubs me the wrong way. I don't know how you can look at the good people of our school board, who I think all of them are Christian. I don't know, but a lot of them said they were Christian. In our school system, with people who, I had teachers that went to my church. Most of the teachers I knew were Christians, went to Christian churches. They lived their faith. They were kind. They were upright. They were moral. They're the bad people. And this is a guy who, some sort of misconduct. So there's a disconnect here for me. I don't know where he's headed with this. I don't know why in your right mind you would bring this example up. I don't know why you would go on to call him a great theologian for the Lord and a great mind for the Lord when the man couldn't even face up to the fact that he sexually abused a young woman at 12 years old on Christmas Day for 4 years. Why do you even bring this up? And if you are bringing this up in the context of everybody else is evil, why isn't this man evil? Why aren't you talking about the evil done by this guy? There's nothing Christian about sexually abusing a child. There's nothing human about doing it. And there's certainly nothing human about not facing a punishment for it, about going about your way and then saying, oh, I repented. So when we talk about moral instruction, and this is an example you choose to bring in here, to compare our schools to this guy. Okay? I'm not denying that abuse doesn't occur in schools, okay? It does. We just had an incident this past week at the high school my daughter attended, okay? But by and large, in our churches, in our public schools, in our private schools, in our community, there are people of all faiths or no faith who are good, kind, decent, moral, upstanding people. And they are not the evil that Robert Morris is. They are people who realize that repenting doesn't get it. Okay? Maybe the Lord thinks you're okay, and I don't know if he got a fax or maybe a text message from God saying, yeah, I'm okay with this. All right? But, this is a guy who wants this moral instruction. He's kind of okay with this, he sinned, and he sinned a long time ago, and it caught up with him, so you shouldn't sin. But he doesn't acknowledge the grave nature of what this man did and how it impacted kids, and the fact that it happened because he was a religious leader in a church, in a situation, in a scenario where he was able to say, my morals are the best, and even convince parents who should be protecting their children to not go after him, to not get him prosecuted. It's weird to me. It is really, really strange to bring this example up after going off on our school system and our school board members who seem like, to the person, to be pretty darn kind and generous. I don't know them at all, other than a few communications with them, but they seem like decent people. The school board members I've met throughout my life are not doing it because they love the work or because they love the pay or love the power. There's not much power and there's no pay besides a little stipend. So they're doing it for good reasons. And so this was just a weird, I know it's a very small section of a longer sermon by this gentleman, but it rubbed me the wrong way. And to me, it speaks to the moral ambiguity that some of the biggest supporters of Lifewise have, that they can sort of give this guy a pass because some sort of misconduct. They can't even bother to tell you what he did, because I guess that would make you question what he's saying here. You don't want to hurt your evidence by giving more details than you need to. That this is the guy who's telling us everybody else is immoral. But this Christian, this great theologian for the Lord, made a mistake, and see how it backfired on him? Well, our school board's doing the exact same thing with this. I don't get it. And maybe I've made a tenuous connection, but there's a lot of tenuous connections in his sermon, so I guess you can give me one for there to maybe I get one in my corner too. But that's what I wanted to share, and I just find it weird, find it disturbing, and a very odd example to compare our school boards to.